I mean, kindergarten was the worst thing ever. Like I feel like it's scary. Like, yeah, it was like the teacher had no attention for all of the kids, and there was like, yeah, and she was like super pregnant, and she was gonna go on pregnancy leave soon. But anyway, it was really hard. Like I felt like I got left alone. It feels like there's a lot of people around you, but if you feel like I felt like I was on my own, and I wanted to leave. I didn't want to be there, and it was really scary because there would be other people around me who, we talk about these like behavioral stuff and stuff like, but like I was really scared that when someone would act out and the teacher would take away their recess hella fast, like 5-10 minutes, like 5, she'd go like, all right, that's 5, that's 10, that's 15, that's all your recess. So I was like scared to like say anything or do anything. I was just terrified because I thought something bad was going to happen to me, like, and so I was just like kind of terrified for years of school, and it was rough, it was brutal, and I feel like I was a big turning point in my life. Stuff got really hard for sure. Yeah, and I don't wish that upon anyone.
I think hearing that, and the question I asked was, how was school, for you, and you started off like jumping at that early age, and I think that's a really pivotal moment right there, because the modeling of the school is very important, and the way that these teachers are using discipline and the way that they're going about these models are very important, because as you just mentioned, that it's having a long-term effect on how you internalize school, education, and how you're able to even perform.
Yeah, I mean, it was very different from my preschool. My preschool was, like, the teachers were just really thoughtful, and, like, you could tell that they really loved you and every child, and, like, we did it kind of like a little co-op. It was like a kind of small preschool where a bunch of families, like, got together, and, like, we, like, my parents and a bunch of other parents kind of, like, hired someone that they really can tell that loved their child, like, and stuff like that. And that was just super important. It was also, like, my first language was Spanish, and so that was, like, school was, like, all in Spanish and something like that. And I went to dual immersion school as well. Like, it was kindergarten, it was, like, 90% Spanish, 10% English, and then it went up to middle school where it was 50% English, 50% Spanish. But yeah, like, it was a huge change going from preschool where I could feel like I have a little bit more freedom in terms of just, like, not being terrified all the time and just not having, like punishment looming over my head. And so, like, that was brutal.
Okay. My question is, how old are you right now?
I'm 20.
You're 20, right? So how did you navigate, through from, previous, earlier, kindergarten age, as you mentioned, that kind of around that time, to being kind of where you're at right now? And you're currently, what year are you in right now?
I'm in my third year, yeah.
Third year, so you're about to be a junior, currently at MIT pursuing
mechanical engineering and mathematics.
Yeah. Right. So how did you navigate, if I may ask? What's your story behind that?
Like a lot of counseling work, a lot of, like, work on myself, and, like, a lot of, like, being able to look at that and look how hard it was. I feel like it's super important to not just ignore that, and, like, really got to acknowledge that happened. Stuff was really hard. Stuff was really hard when you were little. And things have changed a little bit, like, when you're older, you have the ability to do things that you didn't have when you were little. When you're little, you're forced to go to school. You don't have a choice, right? So things are really hard when you're forced to do things that you want to do, that you don't want to do. You don't have the power to do very much. You don't have the power to leave. You don't have the power to, like, so, like,
And you're in self-discovery mode, I believe, you know what I mean? Where you're trying to figure out not just yourself, but your environment, but you don't really, as you mentioned, you don't really have too much power.
And so it feels like you don't, but that's not true. I think all of us are very powerful. I think every person is very powerful. But it gets set up such that you think that you're not powerful because you really weren't when you were little. And now you have the ability to do a lot of things that you can't, that you didn't have the chance to do when you were little, or that you couldn't do physically when you were little.
Right.
But it doesn't feel like you can, because it still feels like you're that same powerless person if you don't look at that. If you're not able to look at those things that happened to you that felt hard, you'll be kind of, like, stuck. You're a little stuck in that you can't react to a situation in a novel way. You can't realize that it's not the same situation right now that's happening to you now that it was back then.
So with that experience, with that more self-awareness, with more age, you're able to, make better decisions, ultimately for your life than you probably were in previous years because.
And I don't think it's that you don't have the ability to,
mm-hmm.
like, that inherently you don't have the ability know what is a good life. Or, like, when you're little, I think you were super smart. I think, young people are some of the smartest people in the world. And they totally have, like, an idea of what the world should look like, what a good world looks like. And that gets crushed so early that by the time you become an adult, you're, like, normalized to all this stuff, like you're talking about. Like, you're normalized to this school system. You're normalized to, like, the way things work,
mm-hmm.
and you accept it, right? That's,
right.
like, the training of school. It beats out this kind of, like, humane idea of the world where, you like other people and you want to be close to other people.
Right, it's changing your identity
sure.
being into what they want you to be.
That's the main role of school.
Yep. That's a really good way to think about that. I'm happy that you're able to express your previous experience in regards to upbringing, how that was difficult, and like our conversation tied to school, and then you kind of diving into you making that personal investment in regards to a mental health counselor to help you kind of navigate cognitively what was going on, and then you able to embrace your situation. Those things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I was neglected, I was mistreated, I was all those different things that had happened to, etc., that allowed you to then be able to facilitate an action plan for growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which transcended you to be this amazing individual, to be, at MIT. I'm not even making MIT seem as if that it's this amazing thing, because it really is you. You're the person that is the amazing individual that is at a dope school, right? But, as a male that is, as you mentioned, that is Hispanic in addition to American, navigating, education, etc. Can you really talk about why mental health isn't important?
Why?
For you, in regards to how that helped you out and what that means to you.
Like, yeah, focusing on, like, my well-being, my mental well-being makes my life better because I feel happier. I don't know, like, I feel like after I'm doing this kind of work and stuff like that, I can tell that I think better. Like, I'm able to think about people better. I'm able to, if someone is talking to me, if someone's having a conversation with me that might, like, I don't know, in, like, popular culture and stuff like that, we sometimes talk about, like, triggers, right? Like, stuff that, like, you think about that causes you to, like, think about something that happened to you in the past, right? And that, like, brings up a lot of feelings, like, a lot of, like,
pent up emotions.
Like,
yep.
Yeah. When you actually work on those, you're able to respond freshly. Like, sometimes a trigger isn't very useful to a situation. Like, it's often not. Like, it's not something that you want to do. And when you're able to work on it, when you're able to work on the feelings, and, do a lot of, crying
mm-hmm.
and shaking and laughing and
mm-hmm.
yawning and thinking about it
mm-hmm.
and talking about it, then you're able to work on those feelings and in that place that was hard, and then you're able to free up your mind from that distress such that you can think freshly in a situation. So now when something comes up that would have, like, re-stimulated that feeling, that would have triggered that feeling, now you're able to respond freshly to that situation and, like, really think about what's coming to you and be like, no, actually this situation that's happening to me right now is not like that situation that happened back then. Now I can actually, as a human, I'm able to use my mind to respond freshly to the situation because it really is a new situation, not the one that was, like, not the hard thing that happened in the past.
That was a beautiful way that you're able to explain that, and I think that in my own version that I'm able to decipher this for my people on the aspect is something that's really embraced in the school system is that chaotic behavior, aka crashing out, right? So a lot of people, even for myself, had anger issues growing up, right? A lot of things going on in the home. Trauma, the way that your people talk to you, the love is dysfunctional, disordered, right? Manipulation, just so many things are spiraling through the mind that frustration seems to be a trigger, as you mentioned, something that is just really impulsive, just something that you don't really process. You just kind of you just act upon. And I think that
Yeah.
by you kind of expressing why mental health is important, and it allows you to have a fresh mindset where you're able to have
Right.
rational thinking
Right.
behind
That's
your
the key.
emotions,
That's the
gives
key.
you the ability to now think about what I'm doing and know what I'm doing before it's done. Because
That's the
I
key.
see that what's happening is that some situation what these kids are going through is that they're getting detentions, they're getting, suspensions, they're getting the slap on the wrist type of thing. And my thing for them is that, this is a pattern. And this pattern you may feel happy, or you may get glorification, you may be looked upon as a popular person, but I'm letting you know right now, these patterns are not healthy. It's not going to give you the healthy outcome that you probably don't really want, you know what I mean? And I'm saying, and I'm keeping this real, because when we look at in the incarceration system, a lot of mouths begin to get quiet and things get, a little sporadic, and people start scratching on their head, you know what I mean? Because it gets real, right? And I really want to really emphasize this, because I really want everybody, as you just mentioned, is to have a mind of their own,
Yep. Yep,
peace
that's the key.
of mind. And that is, something that you just can't put a dollar on. So I'm really happy that you're able to express a little bit about your life story, and how mental health impacted you, and kind of dive into the focal point in regards to the school system for you. Is there anything that you would recommend to anybody out there that is going through difficulty, maybe self-sabotaging, maybe feeling a little insecure about maybe seeing a therapist, or family, in regards to mental health may not even be significant in their bloodline, or what is something that you would be able to encourage?
I understand that, like, reaching out is often, like, the hardest thing to do ever. And there's real reasons for this. Like, we have a culture of so much isolation and so much, like, you have to go at it alone. And I think one of the reasons that this is the case is that I don't think anyone wanted to do anything alone, didn't want to go at it alone. But at a certain point in your life, when you were very young, you had to make the decision that you had to go at it alone. And it's because nobody was around you who was able to think about you enough, to think about your mind enough to be with you in that spot. And so maybe you went after people. Maybe there's people you really liked. Maybe you loved your mom and your dad so much. And maybe they weren't able to be with you in the way that they often weren't able to be with you in the way that exactly you wanted to. Even if you quote unquote had good parents or whatever, they always tried their best. Every parent tries their best. Every parent always does. Every person tries their best, always. But it doesn't often work out. Like, you often don't get the support that you need as a young one. And so you have to make a decision to go at it alone. And so what I would say is that's a very old decision. That's not a decision that's rooted in the current present, in the people that love you right now. That's a decision that you made when you were really, really young. And so I would encourage you to re-examine that decision. To think about that time that you made those decisions in the past that feel like they run your life, that feel like they're like, it would be like, those decisions are such central parts of your life as an adult that you don't even think about them. Like, you don't even think about, like, I don't know, like, what is this, like, social, like, how does one be social, for instance? Like, well, there's, like, respectable distances, there's respectable things to talk about, there's, like, like, maybe, like, we don't do a whole lot of physical contact, like, maybe, like, hugs aren't encouraged, that kind of thing, like, showing affection to people isn't really encouraged. And those are all really old decisions. Like, those are not, you made those choices to, like, society put those choices on you, like, and, like, forced you in certain ways, but then you put that decision on yourself afterwards. You made the decision to go alone. You made the decision to put this social restriction on yourself. And so the key thing is to reimagine what your life could be like without those choices. And those are not easy choices to make, because these decisions that you made when you were young were made in the hardest points of your life, when you were vulnerable, when you were alone, when you were, like, these are the hardest things to look at. And so they're not easy to look at, and you need other people to look at them with you. You cannot look at them alone because you get stuck in that place and you're like, it was just really hard. And so you need someone else to help you look at that place with you and to examine that choice that you made when you were little and help you reimagine what it would look like if you hadn't made that choice, or if you can stop making that choice now.
I'm asking the listeners to really listen to these wise words and really examine something that, you know, transpired in their life and try to really use that rational thinking to facilitate the positive outcome that you deserve and, you know, you desire with that support, right? I think it's really important for us to advocate for ourselves and facilitate trying to have a professional mentor or peer support.
Or just peer. I think
Peer
peer
support.
is super important. Like, you cannot do it alone. You cannot look at those places alone because they were too scary. They were too bad. It was too... You got hurt so badly that you cannot look at that place alone. So you really need other people to be in there with you. That's the key.
All right. And then lastly, what advice would you encourage, you know, someone in the school? You know, you talked about your experience. You know, what would you advise someone, you know, as you're in your adult form right now? What would you suggest, you know, a paid professional?
What would I suggest a paid professional to do about the school system? Or what's
More in depth, just overall, like, you know, just kind of in your, you know, perception of, you know, our just kind of just wrapping up our conversation. What advice would you give a professional in regards to this conversation? You know, we talked about mental health. We talked about the school disparities and things going on. What would you suggest them? You know, what is one thing?
I mean, children are humans, full humans, and they're fully capable of smart, rational thinking. View them as such. Yeah.
I definitely agree. I just want to say for you, I appreciate you having this conversation with me. You were able to give really insightful, detailed wisdom to be able to enlighten, you know, listeners. I really embrace people being vulnerable, being open, and I think that when we're able to do this and have this dialogue, we're really able to impact each other. We have similarities. We are humans, as you mentioned, and there's a lot of things that we definitely relate on because we go through this experience going to school, right? We have our own family background and we have our way trying to navigate through life. And when we put our mental health first, we make that a priority and we truly invest into our own personal development and dedication, we're able to transcend into something very beautiful. It's almost similar like a butterfly on a nice, you know, 72-degree weather day. You heard? So I just want to applaud to you and, you know, what do you see yourself, you know, doing in the future?
Well, short-term goal is probably grad school right now. I'm looking at potentially doing some research and stuff like that in the areas that interest me. But I mean, you know, I'm also really committed to people, and like, so I'm not sure exactly what shape and this is going to take in my life, but I'm committed to people being able to have their minds and, you know, be able to think well. And so I really care about people. So I'm not sure exactly where my path is going to take me, but I know these things are important to me. So, yeah. For
sure. And as a rising mental health counselor, you know, doing what I do on my end, I just want to just congratulate you, man. You're on the right path. You know, just stay consistent to yourself. Keep that mental health counselor, whoever your support system is near you, with you. And I know that when you stay authentic to yourself and your true values, you will get to wherever you desire you want to be at. So I'm just going to wrap up this conversation. Once again, thank you. And, you know, I'll see you next time.
Thank you for talking, Anthony.